Hello and Merry Christmas. Thank you for joining me for part 2 of this coloring page. If you haven't yet, go back and watch part 1 and you can color all of these gifts up here. And then today, in this episode, we're going to color the sleigh and the rest of these gifts down here. So let's go ahead and gather up our supplies. I am coloring from the Johanna Basford Joanna's Christmas book. I like to use the Castle Arts Soft Touch colored pencils, and I have a set of 120. It's also helpful to keep a little pencil sharpener handy, so you can use it to keep your pencils sharp. I also like to keep an eraser, just for any little spots where I may go out of the lines. Cadmium green 062. We're going to start right here with the holly on this gift wrap. And actually I might keep this same color for the holly that's on the sleigh. I'm just coloring half of the leaf here, and I'll do the other half with a different color. Make sure your pencil's pretty sharp. We're going to keep this same green for these leaves over here that are decorating the sled. And again, we're just coloring in half. We'll color in some of these also. Just do a little bit down the middle. How about that? And same with these. And here's another couple of leaves over here. I'm pressing pretty hard. Just trying to really get the color onto the page here. Oh, wrong side, here we go. Cadmium green pale 112. I'm going to use this for the other half of the holly. And I think I'll color these other sprigs a different color. Maybe more of an evergreen, cypress green sort of color. There we go. Make sure you're really taking your time and not trying to rush this part too much because it is pretty small. You want to get in all these little details and not go over. And we'll color these also in the wrapping paper. Maybe we'll make the background a nice bright red color. Whoops, went over a little bit there. Good thing we have an eraser handy. And then finally this little section here. I'm just doing these really tiny little leaves. I probably could have done them in a different color, but it's okay that it matches. Viridian 052. I actually changed my mind a little bit. I am going to color this just a different shade, really, really lightly over the color that we already did, just so it looks different from the holly leaves. So just go over this really light, and same down here. Just pressing really, really light with the pencil. I figured since they had a different shape, you wanted them to look a little differently. Now we'll come over here and push these, color these in here. Very carefully. I'm just coloring a little bit at the base of the leaf because I'll pick a different color for the edges of the leaf. Prussian green is 055. This is a good medium color. So just very carefully get into the edges of the leaf. Make sure your pencil's pretty sharp. Just real carefully take your time here, going all the way around. Leaf green 111. I'm just going to very carefully come in and color all these little teardrop shaped leaves. I thought a nice light color would be good to balance out the dark that we used on the other leaves. Cherry 027. Use this for the holly berries. And over here too. I'm going to keep the cherry color and use it for the base of the sleigh here. I'm going to do like an ombre effect with 3 different color reds to fill in this big space of the sleigh. So let's go ahead and we'll start at the base here and go up only about 1/3 of the way. So we'll start pretty light. Make sure you're filling everything in. And I think I'm going to leave these little starburst things. Maybe come in and do that before I start coloring the rest of this base. So about 1/3 of the way up would be about right here, let's say. So we'll make this little line across here. And then this is where we'll start blending with the next color. So for now, I'm going to come down here and get really dark and get gradually lighter and lighter as I move up. And it doesn't need to be a perfect line across the sleigh. In fact, I'll dip down a little bit here and about here. Because there'll be another color for this top part here. So just real carefully. And let's set the cherry color pencil aside for now. Okay, Golden Yellow Deep 006. Now I'm going to use this for these little starburst designs on the sleigh. Make them look like they're glowing. So just do a little circle around all of them. This one got a little close. There's a couple more up here. And they will have this sort of golden glowing effect once everything is done. And it's okay if you go out of the lines because I want it to kind of glow. Cherry 027. So we will resume with this color now that we've gone around and gotten all the yellow. So just real lightly, just going around this design here. There we go. And same over here, just start out real light. And I like to kind of go in the same direction as like these big swirl designs. And then just sort of maybe use a little bit of a circular pattern for some of this darker part because you want to go back in and make sure it's dark enough to blend with the next color. Maybe get this a little bit there. And then push a little bit harder with the pencil down at the base of the sleigh. Just like that. We'll come up most of the way. And in the end, it'll have this nice blended ombre effect. So here's another one of those stars. Just real carefully make sure you're going around it nice and light. Getting here, these little details. There we go. Now press a little bit harder. And we're going to color in this whole section down here. Make it nice and solid. All the way up to these little lines. And same in here, start out a little light. And then press a little darker. Really get that color going. And I know this is a big space to cover, but you really want to take your time. All right, and be careful to stick to the little guideline that you made for yourself earlier and not accidentally color that whole space. Like right here, keep this blank because this whole top of the sleigh is going to be a different color. And then here's another one of those stars, so be careful around here not to accidentally color over it. Alizarin Crimson 087. I think this will be a good secondary color to sort of lighten up the middle part of our ombre effect. So I'm just really carefully blending this with the darker red that I already colored. Carefully get around all these little starburst things. And blend it with the color. So when you're blending, you don't want to push too hard. You want to just keep it nice and light with the pencil. And get in here with these other colors. Let's go around this star here. Very carefully. And just getting all these little details. And I'm just pushing about medium with the pencil. I'm just coming down into the other darker color, because you don't want it to be too much of a perfect line when you're blending a color. There you go. Use it like a, and then come up here a little bit more and you can start to see the regular crimson color when it's not blended. Okay. Be careful around all these little corners. So really gently just blending here and then coloring in this little white section all solid. And be very careful around that star, not to accidentally color over the yellow. And we're just going to move along the sled here. Very carefully. Blending and gently just coloring along the same pattern that we already made here, just along these spirals and stuff like that. And there's no real need to go too far toward the dark red, because we're now going to use this to shade the center of the sleigh with this ombre effect. So we'll have a total of 3 colors that we're blending, and it'll really have a nice 3D kind of effect. It'll look like a real sleigh instead of just coloring it in one solid red color. If you do something like 3 different shades, it sort of makes it look like highlights and shadows. So here we are again, blending really nice. And right in here, it's just this top part of the spiral that we really need to do. And be careful here around this bow. I'm just really taking my time in here, trying not to get too carried away. Don't go too fast. Just gently blending it. Make sure you're really getting this. And then right about here. Now be careful not to accidentally color this tiny little corner here. I almost just did that, but it looks like it's part of the spiral here. So real lightly do this last little bit of blending. Come down here just a pinch to sort of highlight the darker red. Remember, you can always make something darker, but you can't really make it lighter, so you want to be careful here. When you're going over the blending. Get this last little part on the front of the sleigh. Now we'll resume back here. We're going to color another little guideline, kind of like we did before. Whoops, went over the lines a little bit there. So we'll just come along here real gently. And create this sort of diagonal effect with this crimson. And I'm not pushing too hard at all with the pencil because I want to sort of establish where the top of this color is going to go. And then how big of a section I'll make for the blending part. Because it's a pretty big space, I think about a ½ inch will be good. So keep this really light and get up right up against these lines. And there we go. About a ½ inch, give or take a millimeter. And now I'll start coloring this in pretty solid. Come down here and pick this up also. So it's kind of a big space, but don't rush too much because you want to be careful not to go over. And then get a little lighter as we move up. Maybe get a little bit of a swirl design here. I don't want anything to have too many lines in it. I just want it to be a nice solid color. So you want to press pretty hard with the pencil. And then up here, get a little bit lighter and lighter and lighter. I like to use this technique a lot if I'm coloring like a sky also, because it's a big space, but you want to show some dimension and some movement. Even if you go outside and you look at the sky, the higher up you get, it seems to get a little darker, and then as you get lower to the horizon, it seems to be a little bit lighter, or even different shades if there's a sunset. So something large like this big sleigh, it's nice to have a variety of colors. And then pressing real light right here. Just going to use the pencil to get in this little section here. There we go. And then press pretty dark here. And we'll blend it as we move up. And if you can, just use a little bit of a zigzag motion with your pencil. So it's not like a perfect line that you can see where you started blending. Because then when you add in the next color, it'll really, really look good. Venetian Red 021. I'm going to use this color for this top part of the sleigh. Make sure you get around these stars really carefully. And just start out real light, but eventually I am going to press a little harder and make it darker. But I just want to be careful around all these little yellow details that I don't accidentally color over them. I'll go ahead and start blending with the color that I've got here before. I'm just coming down to the part where I had previously lightened from the darker color to the light color. So you're only going down that far. And this is really giving it a nice ombre effect to the whole sleigh. So that when you look at it, it looks like it's getting darker, and it gives it more of a three-dimensional, makes it look more real. here and start blending. And then I'm pushing again pretty hard with the pencil. That is one of the nice things I like about these specific pencils, is that they're the soft touch. So you don't actually need to push that hard, and it doesn't tire out your hand too much if you're doing, you know, half an hour or so of coloring at a time. That did pretty good blending with this previous color. It looks very nice. It's a nice transition up into the Venetian red from this medium tone. And you notice when you push harder, it also makes this color a little darker, as well as the red that I'm using, like up here on the white space. There we go. Get real careful around this star. Oh, and here's one more. Make sure you're really careful around here. Now it looks like you're just coloring in the rest of this space. All the blending parts are done. Yellow Ochre 077. I'm going to use this for the accents around the sleigh. Maybe this is like a gold metal type of part. I'm just going to come along the bottom and then get inside this little spiral here. And then along this top part. And I'm pressing pretty hard, but now I'm going to go back and just do it real light, just about halfway. So that way when I pick a lighter color, I can blend it. Careful around this bow here. So just press real light with the pencil. And then here's another dark part. Come in here. And then this bottom here. So now just go real light. And we'll follow this same pattern all the way down. So we'll press really hard first. All the way down to here. And make it just gradually fading to much lighter. All right, now we'll get up here to the front of the sleigh. And we'll just make it really thin. There we go, and just get this bottom. Ooh, gonna have to do that with the eraser. Fix up that little spot. So now I'm going back over really, really light with the pencil. Because it gets a lot more narrow up here, so I don't want it to be, I still want it to blend very nicely with the lighter gold color. And then get under here. Cadmium Yellow Deep 075. It's a pretty good color representing gold. So I'm just going to come over it, press pretty hard here, and just get in this spot and start on the white section that we left blank, and then gradually going toward the darker parts. I'm going to start up at the top again, and I am pressing pretty hard with the pencil because I want to blend this yellow, darker yellow color with this golden yellow. I think I'll use these same colors for the rest of the accents around the sleigh, all the swirls. And then be sure to get in this little part here. Just use a little bit of a small circular motion with the pencil. Now I'm going to use this same color for the tops of these swirls here and just do the beginning and then get the little end, little round part. So I'm just going around the sleigh and getting all the different ends of each of the gold swirls here. I'm just kind of guessing where I think the highlights might be. Like along these outside of the swirls, along the top parts, and then maybe the very ends like this. Just use, and I'm pushing pretty hard with the pencil so it really shows up. And then here where it splits, maybe I'll just do one of them like this and then get the other two in the darker color. Pull out the yellow ochre again, 077. And just come in really carefully. And I'm just getting the parts of these swirls that I left empty. And it's just a subtle difference, but I think it's enough to really make it look three-dimensional. And like the parts of this gold is really shining. Let's keep the yellow ochre and come down here and get some of this, the railing of the sleigh. Since this is pretty thin, it'd be a little hard to do it with two colors, so I'm just kind of coloring the bottom part here and then gradually getting lighter. And then this looks a little thicker. I think I could do that down here. So we'll have this just get lighter up here, really light. And then right here I'll use this on the bottom part. And then press really light with the pencil. Make sure your pencil's pretty sharp for this part. They're pretty small. These lines here are very, very small. It is very nice. It makes the sleigh look dainty and delicate. Alright, so real carefully just color along the bottom here. And then I think I'll take this part here. And again, really carefully just going up the side of this railing. And then down this part. Stop like right about here. And then this part is gonna be kind of where I would guess that the shadows would be. So be real careful to stay inside the lines here. So now I think I'll go in just really lightly right next to it and just color over it really light. Just so there's something nice to blend with the other yellow. And we'll follow that same pattern up here at the front of the sleigh. right here we're gonna switch and do this darker part on the bottom here along this railing. And then right about here we'll switch again. So come over here and make this the bottom. And then right about here we'll switch again. It's getting smaller, so we'll make this the bottom. Maybe just color in the whole part because that's pretty tiny. And then right here, just a little. There we go. We'll come in here in this little thing. Cadmium Yellow Deep 075. So this is the same color we used before. And we're just going to come in here very gently and color along this railing. And we'll gradually, carefully make our way down. And then up the side of this one, really carefully again. And along here. And we'll just follow this all the way along, coloring in the whole sled. All right, and here's the other part where we gradually got lighter and lighter with the other colors. So this actually is blending up really nicely. Get in here, and then we're just about done with this color. Castle Green Deep 057. I'm going to very carefully come in here and paint this little trim on the bottom of the sleigh. Be careful not to color over those circles, because we'll come in later and do those in a different color. Maybe we'll make them gold again to match all the other accents. Be sure to be very careful around these little circles. Be sure to take your time here. There's no big hurry. And if you have to do something else, you can always come back and work on this a little bit later. But don't try to rush through it, because it won't quite be the same. Yellow Ochre Light 010. I'm going to use this color for all these little dots here along the base that we just colored green. Magenta 086. We'll come up here and finish these last little gifts, and then we're just about done. Come into the center of this ornament here, maybe the top part. Really careful. I actually just noticed this little piece right here is the remaining part of the box up here that didn't get colored in. So I went back and double checked, and it's magenta that we use. So if you also missed this spot, go ahead and color it in now. Scarlet Red 022. I'm going to use this right here for the outside. of these ornaments. And I think I'll color this bow a bright red. Do some of the stripes too down this gift. Just every other one. I'll do red. Oh, there's a very tiny piece there. Juniper green 056. Purple Lake 091. I want this gift to be a little bit different than something just red or green like the ones around it, so I'm going to color it a nice purple color. I'm pushing pretty hard at the bottom, and then I'll get a little lighter as I move toward the top. So up here, we'll leave the very top blank for the next color, and then just push really, really light with the pencil. Just like that. And now that we're down here, we can get a little bit darker. So it's a really gradual shade from dark up to the light. Again, press really, really light here. Lavender 036. I'll use this for the top of the box and press pretty hard, blending with the purple that we just colored. Bengal Rose Deep 085. I'm going to use this for the bow and just get in here where the shading would be, and then get a little bit lighter and go across and do it on the other part of the bow. And it's okay to get a little bit of a zigzag. And then right along here, and then get lighter as you go up, and then here you'll be dark and getting lighter as you go down, just like that. So push pretty hard here, and then gradually getting lighter, coming down the little ribbons of the bow. And then the underneath here, this little teardrop shape. Kind of do it in reverse. Get darker out here and get lighter in there. And then press really light right here. And then pretty dark right along the bow. There we go. Bengal Rose Light 083. Get in here and do the light parts of the bow. And then blend it with the darker pink. Real carefully. Don't want to accidentally go over and get in that gold part. Cobalt Turquoise 048. And this is our last color for this page. We're just going to color in this whole big space here of this wrapping paper. Very gently and carefully. I'm also not pushing too hard because this is a pretty light blue. I like to keep it kind of light. This almost matches the blue Christmas tree wrapping paper, which I think was one of the first colors we used. One of the first gifts that we colored in. Well, I want to thank you very much for coloring along with me today. Let's take a look at all of our hard work that we did and take a look at the whole page here. Well, this was really a big design. It almost doesn't fit in the whole screen here, but we colored in all of the gift boxes and all of the sleigh and the gold accents. It looks really beautiful. Thank you so much for coloring along with me. Merry Christmas, and I will see you next time.